Hello everyone, Laszlo of the Wandering Investor. So today we'll be discussing how to obtain permanent residency in Paraguay immediately. So not the normal route, which is to first get temporary residency and after a few years convert to permanent residency with a few trips in between, but here one trip, permanent residency immediately. We'll be discussing this with Laszlo. Laszlo, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for the invitation.
The program to obtain permanent residency immediately in Paraguay is called SUACE, and the law says that you must invest $70,000 in the Paraguayan economy and create at least local jobs. So this is the official law. The problem with this is that not necessarily everyone wants to create an actual physical business on the ground in Paraguay or outsourcing services. So what a lot of people have been doing, which is a bit on the gray zone, is they buy real estate and then they get permanent residency this way. Many immigration agents and lawyers are uncomfortable with this route because it doesn't follow the rule of the law and doesn't actually really create five jobs. Some immigration agents offer it and it's fine. People are getting their PR, others don't. Now, the risk with such an approach is that typically when people go for permanent residency in Paraguay, it's because they want a plan B, right? And if your plan B rests on shaky foundation, there's an element of risk that people aren't necessarily comfortable with. However, that's not the only way. And I was having a chat a few weeks ago with Laszlo, and he spent time in Paraguay recently, and he told me of another approved way with proper documentation and government endorsement, which is by investing in the local film industry. So, Laszlo, can you tell us about this option?
Yes, I do not want to make any comments on the property investment side because it is possible that there would be enough work manpower to be used for the construction, which means that they might be able to satisfy and so on and so on. Portugal is an open market now, so all in all, many things can be done. I'm not saying anything is illegal because I'm not saying that, but I would like to talk only about about our own solution for that, which is I think is very, very clear. Paraguay wanted to, they had a decision on the Council of Ministers that they want to develop their own film sector, the same way as the Czech Republic, the Canada, and then so on and so on, to give subsidies and many, many ways then to have the development of the local filming industry or helping foreign film companies to come and to shoot films because that don't forget, making a film requires quite a lot of manpower, by the way, even though the majority of them are non-qualified ones. They just need it on the stage in the background to move. And that is why this 5-member employment is definitely possible and it's not a problem. So what the clients are doing, they are investing 40,000 US dollars into a film project, which is a film company. And therefore, the manpower requirement is definitely kept. And and then we have a special waiver from the Ministry of Culture who gave the permission to the audiovisual Paraguay government committee to accept these kind of applications and to grant an immediate permanent residency to the main applicant. When I'm saying immediate, obviously it takes like 2 months to get this documentation in order, but otherwise I think that is also a good thing that in 2 month time you can be a permanent resident and you do not have to go through the residency period, the normal temporary residency period. The necessary investment is 40,000 and the reasoning is that the money would remain in the company and according to our possibilities, then the money would be added, what is generated as a profit would remain in the company for a certain time, and then most probably there would be distributions, but until that time, that is also calculated against 70,000 threshold. And by the way, according to the law, the 70,000 investment must be done in 10 years' time, which just crazy because anybody could promise 10 years, and now the Paraguay authorities are cracking down on those people who do not want to invest anything. They are just claiming or they are just promising that they would invest. This is not the case. It's 40,000 US dollars for the main applicant and then 2 month time permanent residency. And if somebody is interested in Paraguay, obviously there are lots of materials also on your website with your interviews of why Paraguay, with its territorial tax system, freedom, we could say that really it's one of the freest country for the time being. It is the Itaipu Dam generates lots of huge huge amount of electricity. So electricity is not a problem. It has a huge number of arable land. So if somebody wants to have agricultural activities, it's okay. The manpower, unfortunately, is not as educated as, let's say, in Argentina or in Uruguay. The government is working on to spend more on the education. Anyway, that's about the country. So how the system works, if the client and the family members, because family members can be also included in the application with the caveat, and that is a kind of a negative side, that only the main applicant can get permanent residency and the family members get 2 years temporary residency, which can be renewed all the time. And if they would be living in Paraguay, then they would be able to convert it also to permanent residency. But initially, it's only the main applicant who gets the permanent residency, valid for life. So I think for 40,000 US dollars in such a booming country with so many good possibilities, investment possibilities, or really nearly in every aspect of ordinary life, it's a good place to move, then I think it's a good idea. The money is invested in films, which are, again, as I mentioned, employs quite a lot of people during the film is made. And we see how the films would be successful. But we all know that the film industry sometimes creates very good films and very profitable films, and sometimes it creates duds, because that happens, I think, in Hollywood also. So it is, even though it's an investment, and it is an investment, and if the clients and the films are going well, then the clients would definitely get a later distribution. But there is a chance that not everything would go well, and the films will not be so easily saleable or will not generate enough income. And in that respect, the return is questionable if they receive any kind of return at all. And if that is the case, that somehow this doesn't work, then maybe the 40,000 US dollars will not be an investment, but rather in economic terms, a donation to the country. Still, the permanent residency in 2 months' time is there. And then even when we consider that this 40,000 donation, I mean, 40,000 US dollars now is really not a lot of money at the end to get such a good stronghold in Paraguay. The applicants, depending on whether they are living in a country which has a visa-free agreement with Paraguay, then if they have that agreement, they can go to Paraguay to file the application, or they have to apply for a visa. We collect the documentation. We give it to the film authority, the government film authority. If they find everything is in order, then they go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issues a letter of invitation, and one is sent to the client and one is sent to the actual embassy, where the client has to go personally to file the visa, to apply for the visa. Then a special document would be issued, and when they go to Paraguay, they get the visa on arrival. It might sound complicated, but it's definitely not complicated, because at the end, it's just gathering the documents, and we would, in the background, sort everything so that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is actually inviting those people to come, but they have to go to the embassies, whichever is responsible for the territory. Now, Paraguay, compared to the Caribbean countries, compared to Vanuatu, I think has a very, very good network, because, for example, they have in the United States an embassy. They have in Canada. They have obviously on Central America and South America. In Europe, South Africa, for example, for Africa. They have in the United Arab Emirates. They have in Japan. They have in India also, which could be a good market. Qatar, South Korea, Republic of it's Turkey, United Arab Emirates. In Europe, Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, if somebody wants to go there, Spain, United Kingdom. So all in all, the network of the embassies is very wide. So all in all, if somebody is living in a country which doesn't have a direct embassy on the territory, then we might suggest to go to that other other country, and then we would sort out the paperwork for them.
So effectively, I see this option as interesting for two types of people. One, Westerners that want a plan B, that want permanent residency in Paraguay immediately in a single trip without having to go two, three times over 2.5 years to get the temporary residency to then convert to the permanent residency. And then to keep the permanent residency active as just a single trip every 3 years to Paraguay. Or people from developing countries that do not have visa-free access to Paraguay, typically from Africa, the Middle East, many parts of Asia. This is your way into Paraguay. Laszlo can get you full support at your local embassy or at an embassy nearby to get the visa for you and your family. And then you, as the main applicant, and your family can go to Paraguay. And in a single trip, you, as the main applicant, get permanent residency and your family temporary residency.
Yes, exactly. And I have to add something that sooner or later governments would wake up to the fact to check of what is the content, a foreign country, let's say the original country where the client is coming from. What is the residency? How much time do they spend there? But having a permanent residency sounds a much stronger attachment to that country. So if anything is questioning that person, I think that a permanent residency is much more valuable than just a simple residency, especially if somebody is reading articles about Paraguay or how easy it is to get a residency. So all in all, I think that in today's time, 40,000 investment slash donation, I think that is a very, very good proposition. And with that possibility, obviously the whole Mercosur regional agreement would apply to that person. And then visa-free travel to Argentina, to Brazil, to Chile, and also business possibilities. So all in all, I think that this is a very, very well-priced product, even for someone who just thinking of going there. Why not have a permanent residency, which is very hard to take away?
Yeah.
Just a
Look,
simple residency. That's my opinion.
absolutely. So look, two things. As you said, Laszlo, before, it's a high risk investment without necessarily much upside. So people need to be aware of this. It's personally, if I were to do this, I mean, I already have permanent residence in Paraguay. I would go in there thinking this is a donation, and if distributions come to my account later on, then I'd be really happy. I think this is the mentality that people should have when they venture into this. And point number two, this is immediate PR, but also for all the kind of normal people out there, if I can put it this way, temporary residency and then permanent residency works perfectly well for Westerners, for South Africans, etc. So we can help with that process as well. So there is a link below. You can find all the information on how to obtain permanent residency in Paraguay with that option that Laszlo offers. You'll also see the letter from the authorities confirming this program, and then also the usual way to obtain residency in Paraguay, which is by starting with temporary residency. So Laszlo, thank you very much for your time today.
That's excellent. Thank you so much again. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Make sure to download my free ebook, 12 Mistakes to Avoid When Investing in International Real Estate, which you can find on my website, linked below. And feel free to follow me on Instagram at The Wandering Investor. I look forward to hearing from you.